In a world where stories are the essence of life, what if you could be part of creating the next great tale? Introducing Storybook, a community where your imagination comes to life. A place where writers, readers, and dreamers unite to create something extraordinary. With Storybook, your ideas, your stories, and your characters are more than just thoughts. They become part of a larger narrative. Less than 1 billion Storybook tokens are powered by the Ton blockchain. By holding book tokens, you gain the power to pitch ideas, give input, and even become a character in the stories you help create. Submit your stories, collaborate with other talented writers, and see your work come to life. Storybook isn't just about storytelling. It's about making your mark in a community that values creativity and innovation. From anthologies to graphic novels, from films to community-driven magazines, Storybook is where your ideas take flight and where your voice is heard. Become part of a movement where your creativity shapes the future of storytelling. Welcome to Storybook, a community where stories come to life.
This is Storybook Radio.
Chapter 21. The car hums softly as it winds its way along the desolate road, its headlights piercing through the early dawn haze. Phoenix grips the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles pale against the leather. His eyes remain fixed on the horizon, his expression stoic but strained. In the passenger seat, Valerie glances out the window, her fingers drumming nervously against her leg. Dell sits in the back, his analytical mind churning as he scans the map on his tablet. The tension in the car is palpable, an unspoken weight pressing down on all three of them. The Odyssey looms ahead, its distant silhouette a monolithic shadow against the dim sky. The road beneath their tires seems endless, winding and twisting in ways that defy logic. Outside the window, the landscape shifts unnaturally. Trees appear to stretch and warp, their branches spiraling toward the heavens. Rocks jut from the earth at impossible angles, casting jagged shadows across the ground. Is it just me, or is the road moving? Valerie asks, her voice barely above a whisper, as they approach an overpass that leads to a bridge. Phoenix doesn't respond, his focus unbroken. Dell leans forward, narrowing his eyes as he observes the bizarre scenery. "It's not you," he says, his tone clipped. "This place is unstable. Reality here is different." As they near the massive steel bridge, Phoenix slows the car. His sharp gaze locks onto the structure ahead, his lips pressing into a thin line. The bridge, though imposing, is incomplete. A gaping chasm stretches across its middle, the jagged edges of the broken concrete stark against the backdrop of the sky. "Oh no," Valerie breathes, her heart sinking. "We can't cross that." Phoenix pulls the car to a stop and leans forward, squinting through the windshield. His expression remains impassive, though his jaw tightens slightly. Beside him, Dell shifts uncomfortably in his seat, his analytical mind racing as he processes the situation. "There has to be another way," Dell says, his voice tinged with skepticism. "We're not jumping that gap. It's suicide." Phoenix's response is calm but resolute. "There is no other way," he says. "We have to cross." Dell furrows his brow. "And how exactly do you plan to do that?" Phoenix's gaze doesn't waver. "We drive over it," he says simply. The statement hangs in the air, heavy with disbelief. Valerie turns to him, her eyes wide. "You can't be serious," she says. "That's not possible." Phoenix finally shifts his attention to her. "I've seen something like this before," he says, his tone steady. "In my imagination, a bridge that wasn't fully connected. But it wasn't real. It was perception. If we treat the gap as an illusion, we can cross." Valerie's cautious curiosity gets the better of her. She opens the car door and steps out. The crisp air bites at her skin and sends a shiver down her spine. The landscape around her seems eerily quiet. She walks slowly to the edge of the bridge. Her boots crunch on the gravel with each step, the sound unnaturally loud in the stillness. As she approaches, the gap yawns before her like a dark, endless maw. Its edges crumble slightly under her weight. Kneeling, she extends her foot toward the gap. She hesitant. The air is dense, almost resistant to her presence, and she draws back instinctively. As expected, there is nothing but air beneath her. She looks back at Dell with a grim expression, her eyes reflecting both fear and a faint glimmer of hope that Phoenix might somehow be right. Del joins her, crouching to examine the gap. He waves his hand through the empty space, confirming their fears. "It's not an illusion," he mutters. "It's a real drop. We'll fall straight through." Phoenix steps out of the car, his posture firm and his eyes resolute. "We don't know that for sure," he says. "Reality here is warped. If we believe it's a solid surface, it might act like one." Del stares at him, incredulous. "You're talking about manifesting a bridge off faith? That's—" He shakes his head. "That's insane." Phoenix doesn't flinch. "It's our only shot. I got a plan." The silence that follows is thick with tension. Valerie exchanges a look with Del, her unease mirrored in his eyes. Finally, Phoenix turns back to the car. "Valerie, get in the back seat. Crack the door open. If this doesn't work, you jump out." Del steps forward, his hesitation evident. "I'm not getting in that car," he says. "I'll wait here. If you make it across, I'll figure something out." Phoenix meets his gaze, his expression unreadable. "Suit yourself," he says, climbing into the driver's seat. Valerie hesitates, then climbs into the back seat as instructed. Her hands grip the edge of the door. Her heart pounds as she prepares for the impossible. Phoenix places a weighted bag on the gas pedal to keep it pressed down. His movements methodical and precise. The engine roars to life, the sound echoing across the empty landscape. Phoenix grips the steering wheel tightly, his jaw set. "Hold on," he says. The car lurches forward, its tires rolling steadily toward the edge of the bridge. Valerie squeezes her eyes shut, her hand pressed against the doorframe. The wind whips past them as the gap looms closer. From Valerie's perspective, the car seems to glide effortlessly over the empty space, the tires gaining traction on nothing. The sensation is surreal, as though they are weightless, suspended between two realities. She opens her eyes and gasps, the gap disappearing behind them as they reach the other side. But Del, standing on the edge of the bridge, sees a different reality. To him, the car appears to fall into the chasm, its wheels spinning uselessly in the air. His heart pounds as he watches it plummet, his breath catching in his throat. "No!" he cries, his voice echoing across the canyon. He runs to the edge, peering into the void, but the car is gone. The silence that follows is deafening, broken only by the sound of his own ragged breathing. Del drops to his knees, his mind racing. Did they make it? Was it all an illusion? The questions swirl in his head, unanswered and relentless. He presses his palms against the cold concrete, his despair palpable as he stares into the emptiness. "Phoenix," he whispers, his voice barely audible. "Valerie." The bridge stretches out before him, vast and unyielding, and for the first time in his life, Del feels truly alone.